transparency, introduce a measure that ensures a revenue is restricted, which will require a 67% vote, present a new tax measure dedicated to the specific purposes that you've identified, and then sell a product, in this case the tax measure that makes sense. I don't like the idea of having to pay more taxes, but I will if it protects our lifestyle, is restrictive, transparent, and honest. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Chair. Good evening, Mike.
Good evening. Thank you, Mayor Hoffman, Council. I am, as most of you know, backcountry horseman president locally here in Norco, but more important, I am a citizen of this city. And I'm here, like everybody in this room, because of the equestrian lifestyle that we have. So when we start talking about tax increases, pros and cons, I came from a city where we had an average lot size of 8,500 to 10,000 feet. The lot I have now is closer to 50,000. I don't pay taxes, property taxes, based on that size of lot. I pay property taxes just like most everybody else in this room, same as it was in Orange County. So if I have to pay an extra 1%, that doesn't really get under my skin. I think we need it. I do believe that it needs to be earmarked money. It's my true belief. I don't think it's going to kill anybody in this room to pay a little bit extra for the lifestyle that we have. I want to see our horse trails, our equestrian trails in this city maintained. I want to see the lifestyle that we have in this city maintained. There's presidents from, 3 nonprofits in here that I know will step up and help with trails in different areas in this city if we have to do it, and they're here for most all of these meetings. So I think with proper oversight, I think that the 1% is a good way to go, but I do think that it's got to be earmarked for law enforcement, public works, trails, and I think the hardest thing that the city council is going to have to do is own it. And that means you may have to be knocking on doors, explaining to people why we need this, how important it is. 3 of you for sure I know have been here, 50 years? None of us want to see this city go away. I wish there were other ways to do it. I trust that you're going to make a good decision here. Earmark money is my call. That's the way I'd like to see it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
Scott DeRosa.
Good evening, Scott.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members, and staff. Well, I'm going to be speaking to you as a resident and as a business owner here. And let me begin by saying I am in support of putting this measure on the ballot. I do believe that staff, city council, and the ad hoc committee worked very diligently to find a solution to the problem at hand. I think that they found and worked towards a solution that would be the least financial impact to the residents of the city with the proposal that they came up with. I believe that the city staff levels are at the bare minimum, and they wear multiple hats, and their benefit package is a fraction of what the other cities around us get paid for the same jobs and plus. I sell houses in the city, and when I'm selling houses in the city and proposing it to my clients, I pitch it that this is a place that they're moving up to. Not everybody can afford to live in Norco or buy in Norco. Those of us that do live here and do own property here are very privileged. And so with that pitch, there's an expectation that comes with that from my clients who are buying in the city. We do need the improvement on the infrastructure and facilities and so forth. And with that expectation that current owners have and future owners have, we need to deliver what they're buying into. And Norco should deliver that. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott.
Victoria Leonard.
Good evening, Vicki.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, Andy.
I'm definitely in favor of this proposal, and I encourage you to put it on the ballot. I also, I'm speaking to you as a resident and as a business owner as well. I have a small business here in town, and I've mentioned this before, we've had a higher tax rate before, sales tax, that the state of California had placed upon us, and then they took it away. The residents and the people that shopped in my store didn't even know that it had gone away. People don't even realize that that extra $1 per 100, you know, it doesn't really affect them. And I think it's nice that the burden doesn't lay completely on me as a resident, but as in those that come to visit our town. Today, just speaking from today alone, I had 10 people that were from out of the country and out of our city shopping in my store. And, you know, they paid that sales tax, not me. I do encourage you, however, once you do agree to place it on the ballot, to continue with the education and explaining to the people of the city, you know, why and how important it is. I love Norco. I moved here from Simi Valley, which used to be like Norco and is no longer. And I love our lifestyle, and I loved living here for the last 20 years. And I encourage you to keep it the way it is. Thank you.
Thank you, Vicki.
Corinne Holder.
Good evening, Corinne.
Good evening. I also encourage you to place this measure on the ballot and let the people decide. We've had a lot of education that has come up. I was a member of the ad hoc committee, and as people go to some of these meetings, just like ad hoc, I was truly enlightened. I've sat on commission, thought I knew a lot, and learned 100 times more than I thought I did. Council does a good job, and staff does a good job of having made cuts in the past, and you've had some good recommendations on what needs to be done in the future. So I do urge you to continue the education, put this on the ballot, and let the people decide, because we're the only ones that are going to save this. I do have, this will come back to council and staff, I assume, so I had a question for Andy in regards to the RDA. You guys were discussing that. Our longest bond measure matures in 2032, you estimated. So my question is, does that mean that the other bonds mature earlier, and that we may, because of that, see a better return on our property taxes at that time? Thank you.
Yeah, that means that the rest of the bonds will be paid off before the 2032, 2033. And the second answer to your question is that when the bonds are paid off, certainly that will mean additional taxes that are available, property taxes that are available for redistribution to all the taxing entities, of which the city is one. Keeping in mind, the county, the school districts gets the lion's share of its property taxes. But the city will be sharing in that, those remaining monies.
Thank you, Andy.
Mike Thompson?
Good evening, Mike.
Good evening, council. Yeah, I have to say that this has to be put on the ballot, but boy, I can't compare to the gal earlier. I totally agree, it has to be earmarked. For transparency, haven't been involved in all the budget, everything she hit on is dead on. I mean, there's your expenditures, you gave a department head 2-prong raises. If I can sell this, total transparency, if it's earmarked for infrastructure, there's no argument with people that are against it. I mean, it's going to go to the streets. It's going to go to the trails. I mean, there's no argument about company cars giving raises or any of the nonsense. So I urge you to earmark it. Sunset clause doesn't concern me, but as a citizens, I think we can sell it if it's earmarked. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
One more thing, I'm sorry, and I know Mr. Kevin Councilman is running for re-election. Is that something we want to tie in with the language for this ballot measure?
I think that
Maybe that's
apples and oranges on
for the
it, so.
attorney?
I don't even understand the question.
Well, he's going to run for reelection at the same date as they're going to write the language for pros and cons for this measure. We won't have any problems there with conflict of interest.
There's no conflict of interest.
Okay, I just wanted to ask that. Oh, and as a street trails commissioner, your example of the closed trail is not because we're out of funding. That trail's closed because we're tangling with Caltrans. So we don't have any closed trails right now. We just went through the trail system. So thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
Antonio Barreto.
Hello, Tony.
Hello, Mayor, Council, good evening, everyone. I hear people talking about fear and tactics, but sometimes when you look at the truth, it is a bit scary. So we'll look at the truth, what we need to do, and that's why I'm for it, not normally for higher taxes. I'm not a liberal Democrat, but I do believe in our lifestyle and our community. I would like to see, we've elected you guys because we trust what you're doing. We have to trust that we put this on, that people vote for it, and that we do the right things with the funds. I think that you guys have been doing a great job, and we made it through the recession, and to keep our lifestyle, we have to work and fight for what we believe in and what we want. So I'm for it, and I hope that we put it on the ballot to vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony.
Sunday Barreto.
Good evening, Cindy.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. I'm going to follow my notes for once because we only have 3 minutes. I am speaking tonight on behalf of the sales tax measure as well. You guys know that I don't speak very often, so it's important to me. I even put makeup on for you. So it's a real big deal. I am here to urge all of you to vote to put the sales tax measure on the ballot, allowing the residents of Norco to decide what kind of city they want, what kind of city they want to live in. We are in a crisis. I don't need to tell you that. You know the numbers better than I. I've reached out to the city manager and council members, and I have a better understanding today of the predicament that faces our city. I've learned from my research that Norco is not unique. This is a decision that many cities have already made before us. Many will be making this November with us, hopefully, if we get that on the ballot, and many will be making in the future. I won't use Tony's language, but I too never vote for anything that costs me money, and I might be a little ashamed to say that, but typically when I go to the ballot, if it costs me, costs the taxpayers, I typically say no. And this is a little different. Although we're jaded from California politics in Sacramento, this measure is a way that will allow our city residents through the Oversight Committee to be a part of fixing our city and seeing directly where our money is going to go. I too wish it was earmarked, but in my research I figured that is a much larger percentage that will need a vote, and I think we're going to have a hard time getting the vote to pass as it is. So I have to stay with the way it's worded and not be earmarked. With that, I would hope that all of council, if this makes the ballot, will reach out and be available to all residents to inform them, to give them the facts, give them the details, and let them be armed with that when they go to the ballot to make an informed vote. I know all of you care deeply about our city. I know you all to be fair and honest, and I believe that the Oversight Committee will be put in place, and I hope and I trust that you guys will follow the advice of the committee that you put forth and do what the residents recommend for our city. I'm 100% in support of this measure, as you see, and I would just like to add really quick my disappointment in the lack of turnout tonight. This is a very large issue that's facing our city, and I expected to see this place filled. And it's very disappointing to hear on Facebook that the council doesn't listen, but they can't listen to you if you're not here voicing your opinion. Thank you.
Thank you, Cindy.
Lisa Rogers.
Good evening, Lisa.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, staff. Thank you for this opportunity. I actually brought the right glasses this time. Okay. I'm a resident and I ran 2 businesses in town, First Time Events and Rancho Santiago Obstacle Course. And I'm here to tell you over the course of 10 years, 85% of the people that I brought to town to participate in the events that we had here were from out of town. They weren't even residents of this town. When they came into town, they would buy gas, they would shop in our stores, they would go out to our restaurants, and that is all income generating for our community. So I'm completely in support in favor of this 1% tax because I see it as an additional revenue making opportunity for our city. And our city desperately needs a fix. I've said it many times to people that I wanted to talk to me about it. A supplemental tax on individual rooftops would bankrupt most people who live in this town. It's not it's not a couple of $100s. We're talking about thousands of dollars. And the people that rent in this town, the owners of those properties would just pass it on to those renters and they wouldn't be living here either. Many of us would have to move and Norco would be left for the rich and only the rich to live here. I want to see Norco become its potential. I am a privileged person. I get to represent this town almost every single day in the course of what I do. We're extremely unique. We also support a huge industry in Southern California. If we fall and we fail, an industry goes down with us. It's almost like we are a conservator of an equine community that is larger than ourselves. And we have businesses in town that support this larger industry in Southern California. So thank you, I hope you do the right thing and put it on the ballot, and again, let the citizens of Norco make the decision. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa.
Sue Bacon.
Good evening, Sue.
Good evening. Good evening, council and staff. No one likes taxes. I am right with that group. I totally don't like taxes. But I do love this town. And I feel that I would like to see this measure put on the ballot. We're an unusual town. We have unusual needs. I want to see that town stay. Sometimes that means biting the bullet, and that might mean putting a few extra dollars forward. There is a lot of exaggerated and misinformation out there, and it's coming from our mainstream Norco media, Facebook. Sadly, posted by those always looking for the negative, yet never showing up, never volunteering, never asking questions, never going to the meetings. Is government always right? Heck no, look at Sacramento. Do we need transparency? Absolutely. This is not just happening to Norco. My work, as you all know, is not in this town. although I think I'm getting one customer, one client. This could be new. I'm in Claremont, Pasadena, Newport Beach, throughout Southern California, and everyone's being hit. This is nothing new. But Norco is unusual, and we are privileged. I'm so grateful for this town. I'm grateful to all of you. And I'm grateful to the staff who is making all of this right up front. I still want transparency where this money is going. And to those opposing, I encourage them to get involved, volunteer, show up, ask questions. And that does not mean Facebook. Thank you.
Thank you, Sue.
Linda Dixon.
Good evening, Linda.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I too was a member of the ad hoc committee, and I cannot tell you, although many people here hung in there with us week in and week out, month in and month out, year in and year out. We had so much information given to us. It is very difficult to disseminate to the public what all we went through during that time. It was a very long period of time, but the ad hoc committee was such a dedicated group of people. We went line item by line item, budget by budget. We examined thoroughly what type of funding we would need for infrastructure. Would it be, what kind of tax would it be? Partial tax, utility tax, sales tax. What could we do? What could we cut? It's very difficult unless you were part of something like that, and I feel so grateful to have been part of something like that, where I now have the understanding that so many are unable to have, and I wish they could have. I wish that we could have replay 18 months of all of these meetings to see the ins and outs and what's needed and what's not. We came to the realization that we did not want our residents to bear the burden of increased money and funding for this community. We came to the realization that with the businesses that were coming in at the time, that most of the funding that we needed would be brought in by non-residents. And that's the way we wanted it. We wanted to protect our residents. We did not want them to suffer. We saw the books, folks. We saw the line item by line item. I cannot fault our city. I cannot call them crooks. I cannot say that they're not transparent, because they are. The books were honest. The problems are very honest. We need to have this. When I go shopping in other cities, the first thing when I get to the checkout stand is not, so what is your sales tax for this city? I don't pay any attention when I shop in other cities. I have no knowledge of what their sales tax is, nor do the people that come and shop in our city. And they are going to be the ones footing the bill. I encourage you to put this on the ballot, and I encourage more education for our residents, because it's incredibly apparent that some of them desperately need it.
Thank you, Linda.
Norma Williams.
Good evening, Norma.
Good evening, council, mayor, staff. Okay, follow up with Linda on I am all for putting this on the ballot, for starters. But I think it's really, really going to be important to get with these people that don't seem to realize the position that the city is in. They need to be educated. If they're going to go on social media, they need to have their facts straight. That would be a big help. So, you know, we've got to somehow figure out a way to educate these people. These people that are on social media, I've lived here a day or two. I don't know any of these people. None of them have I ever met, and they don't belong to Horsey, they aren't in the fair, they aren't in any of the community things to give back to Norco. So how could they possibly know what's going on? So I'm a little annoyed with that whole thing, as you can tell. So I would really like to see this on the ballot, and I would like to see us be able to somehow educate these people. Thank you.
Thank you, Norma.
Aaron Hake.
Good evening, Aaron.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and City Council members. My name is Aaron Hake. I live on Bluff Street, and I'm a lifelong student of good public policy. 8 months ago, my wife and I embarked on our own Norco dream. We invested our life savings on the house 2 doors down from where my wife grew up. And we did that because we want our children to grow up next to their grandparents with a life of open spaces, animals, family, and the safe environment that this city provides. Our dream wasn't possible in Riverside, and it wasn't possible in Corona. It was only possible in Norco. That dream is not cheap. That dream is expensive. It takes a great deal of effort and money for a young family like ours to achieve that dream and to maintain it. Because I've already invested so much in simply getting here, and because I know I'll need to invest more, I am deeply concerned with maintaining the value of that investment and keep our Norco dream alive. I live down the street from a fire station, and I want it to stay open. My kids look forward to going to the library every week for story time, and I want the library to stay open. In fact, I'd like it to be open on Friday so I can go with them sometimes when I have a day off, but I can't do that today. My kids love our Norco parks, and I want them to stay open and well maintained. I want Marconian Drive open again so that I can get to church a little easier. I want the building department to approve my plans and permits quickly whenever I submit them. I'm a marathon runner, as some of you know, and I know our streets pretty well now as I train. I know our potholes, I know our alligator streets. I don't like twisted ankles. And for my safety, I'd like a lot of those streets to have basic markings on them, like stripes, bike lanes. And I'd like the sheriff to be on the Corridon Freeway more often and remind people how to read a stop sign. I want a lot of these things, and while they may seem basic, I teach my kids when they say, I want, that not everything is free. In fact, nothing's free. And the same goes for our city. I've been reviewing the city budgets dating back to 2009, and I see that this city has dipped into its reserves at times to perilously low levels, built them back up again, deferred maintenance, eliminated staffing, consolidated operations, cut, scrape, just to survive, and in the process told the public plainly in its public documents that this is not a temporary problem. The city has a structural deficit that's in plain sight. This is not a surprise. I give credit to our city leaders for getting us this far without proposing a tax increase. I give you further credit for presenting this choice to the voters today. I encourage you to place this measure on the ballot as a general tax, and I encourage you to give me the opportunity to have my say to keep my Norco dream alive. All of the city's financial records are available for the public to see today. The meetings where decisions like this are made are held in full sunshine, and transparency is useless without civic engagement. We don't need earmarks for transparency, we need engagement from our fellow citizens to use the tools that are available to them today. Deferring action tonight would be a denial of reality, in my opinion, and raise the cost and the pain of the day of reckoning that will eventually come to our community. I am a citizen of a younger generation and have witnessed decision makers in our nation and state put off tough decisions and kick the can down the road out of political fear. Here in Norco, I would be proud and grateful to see my leaders, my neighbors, exercise courageous leadership and put forward a solution for the people. Thank you and God bless you.
Thank you, Aaron. Welcome, Mark.
Bill Schwab.
Evening, Bill.
How you doing, Mr. Mayor, staff, and council? I wasn't going to talk, but as they say, you can't complain if you don't vote or have some other positive input. I think it should be on the record that the ad hoc committee that is referred to and that I was a part of, as well as a number of us here, met to determine what the infrastructure needs were and how to replenish the capital improvement program, otherwise known as the CIP. This fund was a specific fund limited to maintaining infrastructure needs, and it was running out of funds. It was earmarked. We never addressed safety and security. This is something you all have added since then, and so that sets the record straight. There are a couple of reasons you would like to have this tax go into the general fund. First, you think it's easier to pass with just 50% and one vote needed. Second, you can use it any way you want. I would just say that, one, if you are so passionate about this tax increase, then why wouldn't you want at least 2/3 of us to be in bed with you? Second, you keep saying that if the tax increase were to pass, that an oversight committee would be established to oversee that the funds were spent on infrastructure needs. This is not as good as you would like it to sound. First, it would be advisory only and subject to council approval. You all may have a righteous attitude now about the tax use, but what happens if the makeup of this city council changes or we get a new city manager? Our roads and trails need a lot of work. This building was built in 1989. I was an original resident in here when PVA built it. It needs work. Our water lines are breaking all over the place, and that requires more road repairs, not just patches. We need a capital improvement program that will make the city an attractive destination city. And this should be limited to capital improvement projects only. Fire and safety should be limited to general fund support only. According to your projections, their escalating costs will wipe this tax increase out in a matter of years. I think you can sell 2/3 vote if you limit the tax use to capital improvement. In fact, I think we all can sell it. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill.
Susan Olmsted Bowen.
Good evening, Susan.
Good evening, council, staff, mayor. I wanted to, I gotta put my glasses on so I can read this. I'm here in support of the revenue measure. Out of all the alternatives, I believe the 1% tax increase is best for the residents of Norco. So this will have the least effect on fixed income residents. And at the town hall, one of the gentlemen said, why don't we sell all our open space and let developers pay developer fees and put in homes? Well, that's why I moved to Norco, because it wasn't like that. We looked in Eastvale, we looked in Harupa Valley, and we moved to Norco. So I want to support the lifestyle, and I think this tax will do it. We don't want to see Norco change. It's going to change, everything changes, but I don't want to see it drastically change. I also support the tax measure as opposed to an assessment, a parcel assessment, because I think that that would hurt residents who are on fixed incomes and who have to pay rent, and it would be passed through to the renters. I come from a state where I grew up in New Hampshire, where the only two taxes are property tax and sin taxes, which is, racing and lottery and that kind of thing. So the property tax was up between 5% and 7% per year, depending on the city's budget, which is what California was doing before Prop 13 and why Prop 13 passed. Also, I'm in favor of a sales tax because the state of California can't pass its magic wand and legislate this tax and move it to something else the way they have with the triple flip, with the VLF, with all kinds of different taxes. California just comes in and takes money away from local government. This will be dedicated to our city, and that's very important to me. So thank you for your time, and please, I'm in support of this. Please pass this measure or put it on the ballot.
Thank you, Sue.
Daniela Segovia.
Good evening, Danielle.
I'm Danielle, been here before. Welcome to the 21st century, the world of Facebook and all the other ways of citizens of Norco speaking with each other. I can tell you, as those that I've communicated with, we know that this is needed. As to why the council knew that this was coming up, as to why you've given raises to individuals, when any CFO knows and you're looking and projecting for the future, you cut back unless you have an abundance of funds and then you give a raise. but you guys have decided not to. This measure is one that needs to be passed, but no one is going to give you carte blanche with our money anymore. This council and the previous councils have shown that you squander it. Let's just look at Silver Lakes and just take the $500,000 paid in fines and additional monies. Let's look at some of the car dealerships that the city went and with the LeBlanc issue and had an $850,000 amount that was being offered with the guy with the check in hand. I'm not exactly sure about the amount, but the city decided to give to somebody else and they loaned city funds to do it. Until that money is paid off, that's money that's out. It's not money that is cash in hand. This is something that if it's put to the citizens of Norco, and those of us that are on social media and that we're talking, and a lot of us are long-term residents, I've been here 30 years, no, I mean, we've lived through the ups and downs. We enjoy our large lots, and you cannot take them away from us, so why threaten us that you're going to change our lifestyle and take it from us? But I can tell you, nobody, at least a majority, is going to give you carte blanche with our money anymore. But we need to have things done. Promises are made, promises aren't kept. So you can expect, I think that if you actually invested the time and spoke with the citizens on Facebook the way some of the other cities do have, that you would find that those who cannot make it to these meetings because they have to go to work or they have children to take care of, that they would let you know how they feel. That the trust that you've broken can be mended, but it can't be mended overnight. So I would vote for this only if it had, I'd be part of that 2/3 needed vote, that the monies would not be given to you to use as carte blanche, because I just don't trust you. Thank you.
Thank you, Jane.
Myrna Halta.
Hi, Lou.
Well, Myrna's at the hospital,
Oh, I
so
see.
she can't be here. The city needs to take a good look at what they might do to cut back on expenses. You need to find a way to finance what is necessary for keeping our city running smoothly, but within our financial capabilities. Since our economy has strengthened over the years, percentages should not affect us. A strong economy means more money. But if we do not have enough money, you need to go out and find a solution. That is your job. That does not mean suspending any more of our services or taking away our arenas. We are tired of giving up our rights and services. Our money built all these things, and we pay for the few services we have left. You have no right to take anything more from us. Lately, you have brought in some good sources of revenue, with more to come. That will help hopefully in the near future, but we need big revenue soon. In the meantime, do not spend money foolishly. Spend only on that which is absolutely necessary until we are on our feet and have enough extra money to venture out once again. No spending on beautification projects. Spend only on repairs. Think about closing some of the parks temporarily that have little or no activity in them. You have told us it is very expensive, so there's that. Yes, they do make us special, but they are a detriment to our city finances right now. Cut back on some of these exorbitant wages and do away with perks that are grossly inflated beyond any comparable cities that we have looked into. A wage freeze might be in order for management and city staff to lead as a good example to the citizens. Andy, you stood there and told us that raising sales tax would not affect our local businesses. You said all the surveys said it wouldn't. Well, that is simply not true. I did some investigating. This is an excerpt from an article from the John Locke Foundation. Virtually every study concludes that differences in both sales and local sales tax rates result in some proportional reduction in sales in the taxing jurisdictions. In other words, where there's a difference in sales tax, the area with the lower rate sees a bump in sales, while the area with the higher rate sees a drop. We are already currently higher than 62% of all California cities. Can you imagine what that figure would be if we go to 8.75%. Andy, you are a true master of telling half-truths and skirting the issues, as is this handbook that was prepared to influence us. You did not answer any one of our questions in its entirety at the town hall meeting. This is not my opinion alone. So in closing, I will not ask you to not put the 1% sales tax measure on a ballot, because unlike many here, I see no harm in letting the people have this freedom of choice. But I will say that I find it deplorable that you can come to the citizens with your hands out begging for more money, and you just got through giving yourselves all increases to salary that is already insanely inflated. So my position on this sales tax measure is no.
Thank you, Lou. Thanks, Myrna, Jim. Hope you feel better.
Jim Pollard.
Good evening again, Jim.
Good evening, Mayor, council, staff, and thank you for everybody that showed up tonight. Got a lot of good information. I'm in favor of the sales tax increase and want to see you put it on the ballot. My question to Andy is, to get this to pass on the vote, what kind of voter majority does it take to pass the registered voters or the votes cast? The votes cast. Okay. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Jim.
Charles Walton.
Good evening, council.
Good evening, Charles.
And my neighbors. It's obvious our city has been in dire straits for quite a while now, and I can only imagine the meetings and the gashing that's going on in the back to try and solve the problem. As far as placement of transactions, the tax, some transactions are not affected by this. If we were very serious about collecting the money, we would look out for the scofflaws, the guys who aren't paying taxes in this town. I know it's hard, but I know people who spend $75,000, $100,000 on horses and don't pay any tax. I own horses, but I know we don't touch horses transactions. Maybe that's one of the luxuries of just living here. You can sell a horse and you don't need to pay taxes on it. The homeowners are low-hanging fruit. You can just knock them off the tree. Horse owners get a pass. I love horses. I don't like the idea of somebody feeling entitled because they own horses. They don't pay taxes on selling them. We know where we're losing money in this town. Ingalls is not supposed to make a lot of money. But I don't like the idea of bundling everything together so we don't know where it's going. Let's be smart. Let's stop just knocking off the low-hanging fruit and get serious. Because we're not stupid. We're not lemmings. We're Horstown, USA. And we're not going to just give you, as they say, carte blanche to just take our money. Get real. Be honest with yourself. But we need to make a decision in the voting box.
Thank you, Joe.
Nellie Hatton.
Good evening, Nellie.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. I didn't expect to speak, so I don't have anything planned, but I've been a resident of Norco for 32 years. My parents still live here. I convinced my husband that we had to live here so that I could have my horses and raise our children here. I don't think, no one really noticed. I don't think anybody would notice about a 1% increase. But I think kind of split everybody here. Some of us, and me included, think that it needs to be a strict, guided, blind, infrastructure, safety, fire, everything like that. It cannot be a general fund, only because it can go to anything. So if you guys decide that somebody needs a bigger raise, then our taxpayer monies are then going to those raises, and that's not what we want to be paying into. We want to be paying into making sure Norco gets improved. I was here before the 15 freeway was here. So I've seen this town grow, and I've seen it fall, and then grow back up again, and now we're kind of falling again. So I just think that for this measure to be put on the ballot, it needs to be put on as a 2/3 vote measure. Thank you.
Thank you, Nellie.
Jerry?
Good evening, Jerry.
Mayor, council, thank you for giving me a little time to talk. At this moment, I am for trying to do this 1% sales tax. We've got to do something. You guys got a tough job. And I don't know if it's 10 years ago, 8 years ago, we were here trying to figure this out, what to do then. We went with, I think, the water district tax. And we voted on 3 different items, and this basically was on that item back then. But the issue is, we've got to come up with this money somewhere. I think we only have 2 police officers policing Norco at one time. I'm not sure the numbers. And you guys did save us a lot of money in changing our fire department. We're CAL FIRE now, and there's like $2 million. There's been a lot of cuts. You guys have done a great job, in my opinion. Our property value right now is worth more than it's ever been worth in the history of Norco. Somebody's doing something right here. But this is the future. We got 2 years to figure this out. This is the future. Our property value is not going to be good if our fences are falling down on the streets and our roads are bad. Norco, I was here when there was 1 street down 6th Street, and I've watched it grow, and it's done a good job. But we got to keep going, and it's going to take money. So all I'm saying is, let's get this on the ballot and let the voters make the decision, and give us all time to get more information to make sure that this will work. But what's it going to hurt to get it on the ballot? That's what I'm asking for. I need more information. All of us need more information to make sure we're doing the right thing. But I am excited that there could be some type of council working with you to make sure the money's going in the right spots at the right time. That makes me feel a lot more secure about what we're doing. I know it's not an easy task, but I love where I live, and I want to go nowhere else. I hear of people wanting to move to Texas or go wherever they want, but there's 10 more people wanting to move into their property as they go. This might be expensive to live here, and it kind of is. But all the other surrounding towns that I know are probably going to get to the same spot, and over half of them already are, when I started looking at some numbers. So again, I just say, why not get this on the ballot and let all of us as voters make that decision and see where it turns out. Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry.
Jody Weber?
Good evening, Jody.
Good evening. Well, it's good night. Long day. Thank you, Mayor, Council, staff. I wasn't anticipating speaking on this issue either, but I do appreciate a number of individuals who have actually participated this evening and have voiced their opinion. And I am so thankful I'm not on Facebook. So apparently there's a lot of dialogue that's going on there, and that's far too outside of my stress level. But what it does say is that I think that, at least from what I've heard, putting the cart before the horse a little bit, because what is most important is that we have, as residents of this city, an opportunity to actually vote. And that's where our voice gets to be heard. So whether we're in favor of it or whether you're against it, the idea is that all of this dialogue and everything that you've heard is what's going to be instrumental for individuals such as myself or other people who are less educated on this to actually become educated and use their vote for the primary purpose in making a decision, an educated decision on this. So you're only being asked to place it on the ballot so that we could actually advise you and what the majority of this city might be interested in doing. Thereafter, I encourage, if by chance it were to pass, that all of these individuals come back and, due to the transparency that is required at the government level, that you then would have to be accountable for those funds. it's much more difficult to actually earmark. And as much as I do support earmarks, the reality is that you're placing this measure potentially, if you vote in favor of it, on a ballot at a very difficult time with the repeal of SB1. So it's going to be very difficult to even reach that 2/3. Earmarks they're a little difficult overall because you can just play the little shell game and put it somewhere else. So we see that all the time with our own gas tax measures, of course. So one other factor, and just to let everybody else know, I was chair of the Ad Hoc Infrastructure Committee. And as I recall, Andy, that committee was probably only initially set up to last for, what, maybe 3 months? Yeah, about 90 days. And so it certainly shows you that we spent a considerable amount of time looking at every potential need. And I can certainly assure my fellow neighbors and residents that we did not come to any recommendation, very easily. We looked at all options. And the city obviously had some concern in actually considering this proposal because that recommendation came down in 2015. That was 3 years ago. So nobody jumped on the Infrastructure Committee's consideration of this proposal. So thank you, that's all I have to say. Good night.
Thank you, Jody.
Valerie Clark.
Good evening, Valerie.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, and staff. I gotta apologize, I'm on the late show here, I'm late to the party. I texted my sister tonight and said, what's for dinner? We went grabbed a bite to eat, and here we are. I've not kept up with any of this, I'm ashamed to say it, but here I am now. Wow, it's been a long time since I've been in here, sorry. We've trusted you to make decisions for us for a long time. And tonight I ask that you all trust us to make decisions for us, ourselves, for Norco. Please put this on this ballot. Let me do my homework to understand what I'm missing out on and make an informed decision. And let me go talk to my neighbors. You talk to everybody, bring everybody out. We need to get it on the ballot. And we need to keep Norco what it is, because we've already lost so much of what it used to be. Thank you.
Thank you, Valerie.
Mayor, that concludes public comments.
Thank you. And with that, I'll bring it back to the dais. Andy, I know there's a couple of questions posed by the residents. Anything you needed to answer, or are you good to that? Well, no, that's what I was saying. There isn't any. Okay, all right. Thank you. Yeah, you got an answer. Okay. And I do want to thank all the members of the ad hoc committee that worked so diligently from 2014 to 2015. It was a long year and a half. So, Berwin, I'm going to start down here with you. Comments?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank everybody for coming to speak on this. And we've had several conversations on this tax, and Andy and staff have put out a lot of good information on it. And tonight, all we are to do is to decide whether to put it on the ballot and let the people decide whether they want it or not. As far as I'm concerned, I'd like to see it go on the ballot, because I understand what we need in the way of infrastructure, and our public safety is very important to me. I regretted when we had to cut the amount of officers down several years ago when the Depression hit, and we've managed to keep just enough here to keep our substation open, which is very important. We do have good fire coverage and everything, but I think it's up to the people to decide whether they want to keep this lifestyle or not. So I'm in favor of putting it on the ballot tonight and let them decide. Thank you.
Robin?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I as well would like to say thank you to everyone that's attended tonight and participated in the discussion. It's very rare for this room to be this full, so I definitely appreciate the participation and involvement. It's been stated tonight, this is not an easy decision. I don't think anybody ever goes, yay, taxes, or anything like that. And so it's my belief as a council, we've had several hard decisions placed in front of us during my short tenure on council. But even through this, in this particular discussion, there's been some really good things happen for our community. The first one is our city manager and our city staff went out and met with community groups and explained our budget in a small group setting. That is beyond phenomenal in my opinion, just for the simple fact that folks got to see what the budget was all about. Prior to that, unless you were in here for budget study sessions or you follow the council meetings on video, you probably didn't have that information. So I do appreciate the fact that the staff has gone out to help educate everyone in different community groups on aspects of the budget. The other thing that I really appreciate is the fact that I have seen more discussion on the budget. Usually, again, something that's passed, there's not a lot of discussion, and people are discussing salaries, and they're discussing what things are paid for and line items and all of those things, and I think that's incredibly satisfying for me to see the engagement and the participation of those items. And I do feel like, in looking at some of the discussions on social media, I don't have the time to follow it all, that people are doing homework. People are looking at information and pulling up budgets, and I've done my own as well. And so I think that's really good. I would like to offer this up though. There's been a lot of discussion on salaries. I am a public employee. I have 2 public or government jobs. I'm a teacher and a city council person. And so if you look up Robin Grunmeyer on Transparent California, you're going to see me twice. Once as a city council member and once as a teacher. I'm offering up tonight, anybody that would like to see my W-2s for both of those jobs and compare those to what's on Transparent California, please come up and do that. If I made the wages that were listed on Transparent California, oh, it would be so wonderful. The fact of the matter is I don't, and so I do have my W-2s here. And I offer that as a point of reference. As we're doing our research, we have to make sure that we're getting our information from credible sources. And today when I look at Transparent California all the time because we, ag teachers, we give each other a hard time about who's making what. And today when it popped up, it said, hey, would you like to donate? What? Would you like to donate? It's an organization that takes donations and then they do their research and they compile the information. And so again, it's not firsthand information. So as we are, again, being an educated group of residents, please make sure that you're doing due diligence in where you're gathering your information from. And then the last thing that I'd like to address, we're obviously talking about placing a measure on the ballot. I don't think there's any one of us up here that thinks this tax measure is the single solution. It's not. It is by no means a single solution. And many of you have said that, well, that's great, you can get $4 million. Our deficit's going to be more than that. There are a lot of things going on in this community. There's a lot of moving parts. We have hotels that are coming into the community that are going to provide TOT that are not looking for incentives. And I know some of us have concerns about incentives that are offered. We have properties that are looking to be developed. And so this is not the end-all, be-all, save-all. It's a piece of the puzzle that will make us whole. And then the last thing I'd like to address is the transparency and trust issue. When I got on council, or was elected to council, and some of you have heard me speak at community organizations, It was something I was called to, not definitely something that I was like,